Welcome once again to Chelan County Connection. I'm your host, Randy Rhodes, and today we're focusing on a crown jewel of the Wenatchee Valley, Ohme Gardens, and very pleased to welcome Samantha Segaline, the director of Ohme Gardens. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Randy. It's nice to be here.
I know you've certainly been busy. We're going to talk about the opening this season of Ohme Gardens and what's going on coming up, but can we get into a little of the history of Ohme Gardens?
Oh, yes. That's my favorite part. Ohme started out as a 40-acre rocky cliffside with sagebrush and rabbit brush all over it. Today, I always think of it as that forest up on the cliffside. And a lot of people don't know what it is, but it is the backyard of Herman and Ruth Ohme. They were avid hikers, and they really loved to go out into the mountains. But during the Great Depression, people didn't get to travel up to the mountains so often. So when they did, they would dig up little sapling trees and plants, and they would bring in dirt, and they just started making their own backyard. They really wanted to build a house because the view from Ohme Gardens is amazing. We have this full-blown panoramic view of the Wenatchee Valley from all the way up north, swing it all the way around, and we have this breathtaking view of the Cascades in the evening when the sun sets over it. Oh, it's so worth it. So they just started making their backyard, and they would go down to the Columbia River and they would pull out flat flagstone, and then that's what they used to lay trail throughout the whole gardens. We are a mile of trail, and they just maze and zigzag through 9 acres of developed garden. They dug pools. The first pool was dug as their family's swimming pool. That is called Sylvan Pool. You don't swim in it today. That'd be kind of gross. But they dug them, and they're there to mimic the high alpine lakes that they love to just go up and hike through. And they were orchardists, so they had their full daytime job. But then in the evenings, they would just go out as a family, and they would weed their hillsides and listen to the radio, and that's what they did as a family. It's just their backyard.
Samantha, let's talk about what Ohme Gardens is today and what it's become.
Okay. Ohme is officially owned and operated by Chelan County. Chelan County took it over in 2008, and we're just going to kind of reverse the history. The Ohme family had it up until 1991. When Herman Ohme died in 1971, his son Gordon took over. Gordon ended up contracting a very rare blood disease, and he died in 1990, I think, or just after 91, when it was officially sold to the state. The Ohme family really wanted it to remain open to the public and there for people to come and view, because it is a nationally acclaimed garden. So in 1991, it was sold to the state for $660,000. It's priceless today. We have over 25,000 visitors annually who come to view the gardens. And that's through daily admissions, people who come for our events, and then people who attend weddings. We are a very attractive wedding venue. And we have 35 booked weddings this year, but last year we did a total of 85 events.
Samantha Segaline joining us. She's the director of Ohme Gardens here in Wenatchee. Beautiful spot. Hey, real quick, I was curious, what's the fee to get in?
We have an $8 adult admission and a $4 youth admission, which is ages 6 to 17. 5 and under are free. But if you're local, or if you frequent the gardens often, buying a season's pass is the best way to go. Our season's passes are $40 for an adult, $60 for a couple, or $80 for a whole family, which is everyone in your household.
Samantha, you mentioned weddings that are coming up, and I know there are a lot of them every year, but let's get into some of the summer activities that are going to be happening at the gardens.
Absolutely. So we host movie nights because I grew up going to the drive-in, and we don't have that anymore. So we have a 20-foot blow-up screen, and we host movies in later July, August, and early September. There is Works Gym puts on a yoga in the gardens, and that is normally Wednesday nights through August. And then we also are continuing to do a comedy series that we started last year, and those will be on August 25th, September 15th, and September 29th.
And I know we're going to be hearing more about it on the Chelan County Facebook page as things develop. Let's get into the wedding aspect. You mentioned before we went on the show that you've got nearly 40 booked right now.
Yeah, we're at 35 booked weddings, but we still have several inquiries and brides ready to book those remaining dates that we have.
I heard something about some gnomes roaming around there.
Oh, yes. Thanks for asking. The gnomes and fairies are probably my favorite part because it's my contribution so far. In 2014, there was a little boy who was leaving the gardens with his grandma, and he said, "Grandma, this garden was so boring." And I thought, oh no, we have to fix this. So I went out and at the approval of the administrator at the time, Mike Short, we started hiding gnomes and fairies throughout the garden. It's a game of I Spy, and you come in, you pick up a map, and you just kind of go around to the different sections of the gardens and see if you can spot the gnome or fairy hiding there. We do it from May through August, and then families who participated in 3 of the months can come back in September to hunt for our treasure chest.
There's a group called the Ohme Friends, and there is a fundraiser that's very important coming up. Let's discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. The Ohme Gardens Friends Society is the 501c3 that really helps us out the most. They're our biggest volunteer base, and the members of this group have put on a fundraiser on July 9th, and the Glad Song Choir will be performing at it. Tickets will be on sale on our website soon. There are several things that the gardens needs additional funding for. Our Oxyoke Lodge is very close to being completely collapsed. It was the first structure that the Ohmes built in the early 1930s, because before all the trees grew up, there was no shade. So they needed something. And to get it renovated or repieced together, we really need some funding to help keep that dream a reality.
And again, the very beautiful and stunning Ohme Gardens opening this Saturday, April 15th. I know you've been very busy over the last few weeks getting ready to open. What have you all been up to? And tell us a little bit about your team before we get to your background.
Yeah. So our team there are 3 people designated full-time for out in the gardens. We have a lead gardener, and she handles all of like the horticultural aspects of the gardens, from weeding to planting to creating new beds. Then we have our maintenance manager, who is really in charge of everything else that goes on at the gardens that's not administrative or part of daily operations. And that's Dalen, and he works on all of our waterfalls, our irrigation, any little project that just comes up. And then Lucas is also kind of there to just assist in whatever daily tasks that need to be handled.
Now, as far as you go, give us an idea of your background and how do you end up being the director of the amazing Ohme Gardens here?
I still wonder how that happened. But it's all happenstance. Ohme Gardens actually picks and chooses who it wants. It is a living, breathing thing. It's alive. And it quickly weeds out who doesn't belong there. And it's let me stay ever since 2014. So I started out as just that little ticket person on the weekends, and I fell in love with the plants, wanted to learn all of the names, learn how to balance the pH in the soil so we can get through parasite and virus problems. And that led me into studying horticulture. And so I continued basically in that lead gardener position, just working with the flowers. I was the glorified weeder, and I loved it. And I've worked so many weekends and weddings that when the administrative director position became opened, I just gladly stepped into it because I love the gardens and I want them to succeed. And if that means stepping out of the gardens to handle all of the paperwork and all of the brides and all of the fun stuff, just to make sure that it continues, then I'm going to do it.
OhmeGardens.org?
OhmeGardens.org.
All right, sounds good. Samantha, it's so very nice to meet you today, and thanks for being on Chelan County Connection.
Thanks for inviting me, Randy. Have a good day.